Jeff Orlowski, welcome back to eTown, or welcome to eTown. Good to have you here.
Yeah, really awesome being here. Thank you.
Congratulations on your success. Certainly, Chasing Ice did really well. Opened a lot of eyes to just the impacts of human activity on the climate, on the planet. What helped you? I can imagine, but what helped you kind of turn your attention under the ocean?
Yeah, when Chasing Ice had come out at Sundance, and then we released that film, and we just spent a couple of years really supporting the outreach, wanting to share the film, do Q&As, talk about our story, talk about what we saw. And it was in that process that we met a guy named Richard Vevers, who his background was in advertising, really avid, passionate scuba diver and photographer. And when we met, he was just showing me photographs and stories of what was happening beneath the surface, stuff that I didn't know anything about.
Right.
You know, we had worked on Chasing Ice. I thought I knew everything there was to know about climate change. And then meeting Richard and hearing about the ocean story, it was like a completely new chapter. A light bulb went off.
And with Chasing Ice, you had this technological challenge where you had to have these time-lapse cameras and these impervious containers parked all over the frigid Arctic in every corner of the world. You started out in this path with a similar endeavor, right? Underwater time-lapse cameras.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges with this issue is that it's hard for most people to wrap their head around because climate change is inherently invisible. We're talking about changing molecules in the atmosphere. So how do you see the consequences? How do you see what that actually means? In both projects, our teams were really trying to document those changes to make them visual. How can you actually see the changes happening in the ocean? And so we've sort of gotten accustomed to figuring out how to make new camera equipment and design new methods for capturing stuff that are happening in ways that people don't normally see.
Yeah, and it turned out your first technological advance didn't really work, right? The cameras didn't function.
If you watch the film, we had some technical challenges along the way. Working in the ocean is really hard. And when we were trying to build a new camera system that could do long-term time lapses at depth in salt water, you need glass that's going to stay clean somehow, that can keep shooting over weeks and weeks or months and months. And so we worked with a team, actually a local team here in Boulder called View Into the Blue, that had this really awesome, it's a dome that has a windshield wiper that can spin around it, and it can keep the glass dome clean.
Yeah.
And so that was V1 and V2 of the project, and a couple more iterations as well.
And like Jack Johnson, you started out in Hawaii.
Yeah, we shot in Hawaii. We shot in Oahu. We worked with some amazing scientists out there at a little place called Coconut Island, and we got to see the reefs there. That was one of the first times where on this project I got to really spend time on coral reefs and learn how special and magical they are.
And then off to the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah. The Great Barrier Reef is amazing. It is magical. It is the most well-known coral reef on the planet for good reason. It's the length of the eastern seaboard of the United States, and it is just miles and miles and miles of corals. Corals they're these tiny. I didn't really know what they were before working on this project. People confuse them. Is it a rock? Is it a plant? Is it an animal? What exactly is it? The coral is a living animal that has plants living inside its skin that feed it, and the byproduct of that makes a rock that grows over time. So just imagine we had little solar panels living in our skin, just absorbing the sun and feeding us. That's what a coral's doing, and it can do it at such massive scale. It makes the homes for countless thousands and millions of creatures that live in the ocean on a coral reef, all dependent on this tiny, tiny little animal with plants living in it.
And there's a wide variety of corals, all kinds of
different shapes, different sizes, different colors, and they're found in different pockets of the planet.
Yeah. And as the ocean warms, these things are bleaching, right? The coral reefs are bleaching out.
There's this interesting relationship between that animal and that plant. And if the water gets too hot, that relationship breaks down, and effectively the animal sort of ejects the plant that's feeding it. It then looks white because you can see through its transparent tissue, and you can see the white skeleton, the calcium carbonate skeleton underneath it. So the scientists...
Which is what the whole coral reef is made of.
Yeah, made. That's the rock that it's making over time as it grows. So people call it bleaching. It can be confusing sometimes. Nobody's going there pouring Clorox on the corals, but they turn white as a result of that. And if the water stays too hot for too long, then the corals will actually die.
In case you just tuned in, you're listening to eTown here with filmmaker Jeff Orlowski, talking about your film Chasing Coral. So this is not just a sort of interesting footnote to this process. This is a fundamental building block of sea life and marine ecosystems, right?
Yeah, this relationship is the backbone for the entire coral reef, and in many ways, a coral reef is the backbone for the ocean. About a quarter of all creatures in the ocean spend part of their life cycle on a coral reef. And so this is a really big wake up call. We are watching corals bleach and die now at really scary rates. In the last 2 years, we have lost half of the Great Barrier Reef. That is mind-boggling. When I say lost, we're talking about half of it has died in the last 2 years, basically the whole northern section of the reef.
Wow.
Unprecedented, unexpected devastation. It doesn't fit any natural cycle. It doesn't fit any natural behavior. We've never seen anything like this. It really, all of the scientists that we've met have been extremely alarmed by these changes.
I want to mention, I thought one of the cool things about the film is that you paired a young coral nut, a coral enthusiast, with his mentor who's been actually studying coral for decades. And you paired this person at the very beginning of his career with somebody who's sort of at the end of his.
Yeah, and like you were talking about with Jack earlier, like we don't want this material to feel preachy. We don't want it to feel lectury. Our objective is to tell human stories, entertaining stories, hopefully. And what you're referencing is this story between Zach and Charlie and this mentor-mentee relationship. We were out there on this random tiny island on the Great Barrier Reef, and it's like 10 people living on this island. And one day, this guy, Charlie, shows up. And I didn't know who he was. And later in the day, Zach's like all eager and excited. And he's telling me, Charlie was here on the island today. And I asked him, did you go up and talk to him, say hi? And Zach said, no, what am I supposed to do? Like, I've been studying your work my entire life, and I love everything that you do. There were 10 people on this island, and Zach was a little shy to go and introduce himself. Yeah. And when I saw that and felt that, I knew that there was some sort of a story that we needed to tap into. Yeah. So we were able to get Charlie onto some shoots, and we had the two of them hanging out together.
That was really cool. Another thing that was really remarkable in the film is you were on a dive. You come up and you're on this crazy sort of floating restaurant party boat with a dance party going on.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Even so close to the reef, there's such a big difference between being on the surface and being underwater. I've met a number of fishermen now that their lives are as fishermen. They stay on the boats and they're on the surface. And they don't spend that much time going in the water, seeing what changes are happening in the water. That scene that you're referencing, there was this huge party happening right while this extremely rare phenomenon was happening, coral fluorescing. It's something that we had heard rumored when we started this project, had not really seen any images of it before, but one of those stages of stress that the corals can go through, they can produce extremely bright, vibrant colors. It's like somebody just poured highlighters all over the reef. They are glowing, they are popping. Wow, and it's an amazing visual sight. It's really challenging in some ways because the first time we saw the reefs look like that, I mean, this is the most beautiful reef we've ever seen. Like, this is, it's incredibly just mesmerizing and colorful and vibrant. And how do you tell somebody that this extremely beautiful thing is really sick and stressed and unhealthy?
Yeah. So, the obvious metaphor, of course, you're down there underwater and you're checking out the reefs and you're aware of this metamorphosis that's going on. And all of us, we're just up here partying and having a good time and listening to music and dancing and drinking beer. So how are you going to bridge that gap? I know that, first of all, the story is pretty depressing. This is a serious thing that's going on. Most people are aware of. You're pointing it out in plain sight. I know at the end of your film, they're saying, hey, if you want to get involved, if you want to do stuff, go to our website. But that seems like the situation we're dealing with is that we're on the party boat, and you're down there saying, hey, guys, this thing is happening.
It is really tough, and at times it has been really depressing. There are a number of scientists that I've met who are extremely depressed about this issue to the point where they have therapy just for the state of the planet. My big takeaway on this project was the reality, the harsh reality of what's happening to the planet is probably worse than you thought. But at the same time, the solutions and the technology are far better than most people think. And for me, it's been this interesting pull in two directions of seeing the planet like literally falling apart. In both of these projects and a lot of the work that we've been doing, that we've been exposed to, people keep bringing us stories of, oh, here's another ecosystem that's falling apart. Like there's nothing fun about that quest to document it. But on the other side of the coin, there are such amazing advances in clean energy and clean technology. There is a movement that's happening. The cost of this equipment, of the technology, is dropping rapidly. There's a shift in mindset. Kids get it. This movement is unstoppable, and it's going to keep moving, and it's dependent on all of us to take part in that solution.
Yeah. Well, no kidding. I just want to ask you, so I'm sure there's information about how people can get engaged and get involved with solutions on your website. What's the website if people want to go and check it out?
The website is chasingcoral.com. The film is streaming on Netflix, so you can see the film on Netflix. One of the big things that we're doing in partnership with Netflix is making the film available for community groups. So you can go to the website and you can sign up for a screening. You can host a screening, even if it's just a small group in your house, or it's a larger community, or if it's a school. All the school screenings, these are free, these are accessible. Somebody just needs a Netflix login to be able to stream it.
Well, okay, so chasingcoral.com, and there's ways to get engaged and learn more and see trailers and so on. And the movie's available to anybody on with a Netflix subscription.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, Jeff. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you so much.
It's an important story, and you
thanks,
tell
Nick.
it beautifully.
Thank you, everybody.
Jeff Orlowski, director of the new film, Chasing Coral.